The priest stops the wedding after noticing something strange about the groom. Then comes the church was glowing. Sunlight poured through the stained glass windows, casting kaleidoscopic reflections on the marble aisle. A soft chorus hummed in the background. Every pew was filled. Friends, family, old neighbors, all gathered for one reason: to witness the union of Naomi Bennett and Christopher Wallace. Naomi stood at the altar, radiant in white. Her smile was real. Her hands trembled only slightly as she reached for Christopher's. And when she looked into his eyes, she saw the man she loved, the man who had made her laugh during her hardest days, who brought her coffee every morning without asking, who once wrote her a poem on a napkin because he didn't have paper. Today was supposed to be the start of forever. Father Malcolm O'Reilly stood before them, hands raised gently, his face solemn but kind. A priest, with over 30 years of weddings behind him, he had seen it all. Nervous grooms, fainting bridesmaids, runaway flower girls, but today felt different. Office, he couldn't explain it. Maybe it was the stiffness in the groom's posture, or the way he avoided Naomi's gaze during the vows. Maybe it was just a trick of the light, or a chill in the air. But something inside him whispered, "Look closer." "Dearly beloved," Father Malcolm began, his voice steady, "we are gathered here in the sight of God and these witnesses to join this man and this woman in holy matrimony." As the ceremony continued, the priest's eyes flicked between the bride and groom. Naomi's voice trembled with emotion as she recited her vows. But when it was Christopher's turn, there was a pause, brief but sharp. He smiled, yes, but it didn't reach his eyes. And when he said, "I do," it came out almost too perfectly, too rehearsed. Then it happened. As Father Malcolm lifted his hand to bless the rings, his eyes landed on Christopher's left wrist. The cuff of his tailored tux had slid up slightly, and beneath it, just for a moment, he saw it. A faint mark? A tattoo? Small? Circular? Familiar? Too familiar. Father Malcolm's voice faltered. He had seen that symbol before, years ago, during a mission trip abroad. It wasn't a religious mark, it was military. But not just any military. It was the insignia used by a Black Ops unit known only to a handful of clergy who worked in international trauma recovery. This wasn't just some symbol. It meant violence. It meant danger. It meant secrecy. His pulse quickened. Christopher noticed the pause. So did Naomi. "Father?" she asked gently, her brow furrowed. The priest blinked, recovering quickly. "Forgive me," he said with a tight smile. "Just a moment, please." He turned and stepped back from the altar. The entire church murmured as confusion rippled through the crowd. Naomi looked to Christopher, who remained strangely calm. Father Malcolm whispered something to the best man, who leaned in, surprised, then nodded quickly and disappeared through the side door. The priest turned back to the couple, but his demeanor had changed. "I need to pause the ceremony for a brief moment," he announced. "For reasons I must explain in private." Gasps, whispers. "What's going on?" Naomi asked, suddenly uneasy. Christopher's jaw flexed. "Father, if I may—" But Father Malcolm's voice was firm. "Number, please step with me to the side room." Christopher hesitated, then nodded slowly. Naomi stood frozen in place as both men walked down the side aisle and disappeared behind the chapel door. The whispers turned to murmurs. Naomi's mother looked pale, and in the shadows near the back pew, a woman in a navy coat stood slowly. She looked like she didn't belong. Nobody had noticed her until now. But her eyes, they followed the groom's every step with cold precision. And outside down the block, a black SUV that had circled the church twice parked silently at the curb. Something was wrong, terribly wrong, and Naomi was about to discover that the man she was about to marry wasn't the man she thought he was. The small side chamber off the altar was dimly lit, used mostly for private prayers and confessions. But today, it felt like a holding cell. Christopher Wallace, stood facing Father Malcolm, who had closed the door gently behind them. For a moment, silence. Then the priest spoke, calm but sharp. "You need to tell me who you are." Christopher's eyes narrowed. "I'm the groom." "Don't insult my understanding, son. That mark on your wrist, it's not something just anyone carries." Christopher sighed. "You weren't supposed to notice." "I did," Father Malcolm said, "because I remember Sudan 2007. I was a chaplain embedded with a medical unit. We saw what your people left behind." Christopher looked away. "It wasn't supposed to be like that." "What wasn't?" He met the priest's eyes. "Any of this." Outside, the music had stopped. Inside the church, whispers were growing louder. Naomi sat alone at the altar, confused and tense, her heart racing. Back in the side room, Christopher leaned against the table. "My name isn't Christopher Wallace. That's part of the new life, the safe one." Father Malcolm's heart thudded. "Witness protection." "No," Christopher said softly. "Witness protection is for people who testify. I didn't testify. I escaped." He paused. "I was part of an elite contract unit. We did things that aren't spoken of. When it got too dark, too wrong, I left, disappeared. I built a new life. Naomi, she has no idea." "She thinks she's marrying a man who sells software," Malcolm said. Christopher gave a pained smile. "Technically, I do now. And your past?" "It's been quiet for years, until last week. I saw someone outside our building, same walk, same eyes, a ghost. Then today, at the back of the church, she's here." Father Malcolm paled. "Who?" "A woman from the old unit. She was a cleaner. If she's here, someone knows. I was warned they'd finish loose ends." The priest's voice hardened. "And you were going to bring this to her altar?" "I wasn't going to run again," Christopher said. "I thought maybe if I got married, made it public, they'd back off." The door creaked open. It was the best man, the one Father Malcolm had quietly dispatched. "She's outside," he whispered. Security camera caught her circling the lot. Black SUV, tinted windows. Christopher clenched his fists. Father Malcolm turned to him. "You need to tell Naomi, now." "She'll never look at me the same," Christopher said quietly. "She deserves the truth." Christopher hesitated, then nodded. They stepped back into the sanctuary. All eyes turned. Naomi stood as they approached. "What's going on?" Christopher stepped forward slowly. "Naomi, there's something I need to tell you, something about who I was before I met you." "Before?" "I lied," he said, voice trembling. "My name, my past. I thought I could keep it buried, but it followed me here." Gasps rose from the pews. Naomi's face fell. "Who are you?" "I'm someone who did terrible things. Things I never wanted you to know. I changed everything after I met you. I became someone I liked, someone worthy of you, but I've been running from who I was." He looked down. "I wanted today to be our beginning. Instead, it might be the end." Tears brimmed in Naomi's eyes. You should have told me. I know, he whispered, but I love you, and I couldn't stand the thought of you looking at me like this. She looked at him long and hard. Then she reached out, took his hand. You made mistakes, she said, but you changed. That takes strength too. And I'm not afraid of your past if you're honest about it now. A stunned silence swept the church. Christopher blinked. I don't want a perfect man, Naomi said. I want a real one. And if we're in danger, then we face it together. From the back, the woman in the navy coat stepped out into the aisle, then turned and walked away. Her job clearly changed. Outside, the SUV pulled off quietly into traffic. The threat, for now, was gone. Father Malcolm smiled. He turned to the crowd. Shall we continue? And in a church once filled with doubt, two imperfect people chose honesty over illusion, love over fear.